Teachers, what was your most heartbreaking moment? When I became a teacher, I promised myself to be there for all my students. That meant more to me than just lesson plans and grades. It meant showing up in the quiet ways too and remembering birthdays, noticing when a kid's smile didn't reach their eyes. I taught middle school art, and for years my classroom had been my safe place. The walls were lined with student drawings and splattered canvases. There was always music playing low in the background, and the air smelled faintly of pencil shavings and dried paint. Then Ethan showed up. He came in with hunched shoulders and a quiet that didn't feel like shyness. He barely spoke, always sat in the back, and his eyes seemed to flick toward exits more than faces. What struck me first were his clothes. He wore the same hoodie and jeans every day. The cuffs were frayed and stained. His shoes looked like they had walked through several winters without stopping. He carried a lunchbox, but I never saw him eat. I caught him once pretending to chew with nothing in his hands. He noticed me watching and turned away. Then came the drawings. He had talent, but the subjects were what stopped me cold. Empty kitchens, rooms with mattresses on the floor, shadows on the walls, always a child in the corner with no face. I couldn't unsee it, because years ago I had a little brother who drew like that. Jason was 10 when he died. Long-term neglect, they said. It's a phrase that sounds clinical, but it doesn't explain the hollow in your chest when you replay every moment you could have spoken up and didn't. I knew something was wrong in our home. I didn't know how to say it out loud, so I started bringing extra snacks, quiet things, like crackers and fruit, left out in the open so no one would feel singled out. Ethan always waited until the room cleared before he grabbed anything. He never looked at me when he did. I tried calling his mother. The number went straight to voicemail, and her inbox was full every time. The school had records of frequent absences, notes scribbled by different administrators, but no one had put the whole picture together. One day I gave the class an assignment called My Weekend. Ethan handed in a drawing of himself sitting cross-legged on a couch, surrounded by silence. A woman was on the floor behind him, face turned away, unmoving. The colors were smudged into shadows that bled across the page. When I asked him what it meant, his eyes flickered momentarily. Then he shook his head and said it was just a drawing. His voice cracked on the last word. I took it to the principal. Diane listened, but said without concrete evidence we couldn't act. So I started writing things down. The clothes, the food, the way he jumped whenever the fire alarm sounded. I learned through other students that sometimes his mom left him alone overnight. Once he told a classmate he had to keep the lights off to make the roaches stay away. Other teachers noticed I was getting too close. I got pulled into an office one day and told gently but firmly that boundaries existed for a reason. Then Ethan didn't come to class for 3 days. On the third afternoon, I drove to the address listed on his emergency contact sheet. The building was run down. The door cracked open just enough to make my stomach drop. I entered and found him sitting on the floor, knees drawn to his chest. The apartment was cold and dark. His face lit up when he saw me, but it was a tired relief, like he'd stopped expecting anyone to show up. I didn't call child services that day. I brought groceries. I helped him clean up. I told myself it was just until we figured something out, and then it became a routine. After school, I'd stop by. I helped with homework, made sure he ate, sometimes stayed until he fell asleep. I kept telling myself I'd report it once things got worse, but part of me didn't trust the system to do better than I could. One night he called, whispering that his mom was back. He said she wasn't alone and the man with her was angry. I could hear yelling in the background. I drove over while calling the police. When they got there, I was already outside waiting. I told them everything. At school, there was fallout. Meetings, warnings. I admitted it all. Told them about Jason. Told them what it felt like to lose someone because I stayed silent. Ethan's mom agreed to treatment. A safety plan was put in place that let me remain involved. I didn't fix everything. I crossed lines. I made decisions people questioned. But this time, I didn't look away.